here we are. We left off, if you remember, with this first paragraph getting finished and learning a lot. Just so much. This is a very small paragraph, but we get a lot of information, a lot about the era, and it's just a fascinating little paragraph, and they're all very interesting. Right? So, paragraph 2. Soon, this is really an ablative absolute. Even though there's no participle, it's considered very often an ablative absolute. Soon, with this investigation, if you recall, namely, into the Christians, the so-called Christians, whoever they are, and as I like to pick this, I'm, of course, representing Pliny's perspective, whoever they are. It's hard to know. And again, he's not rounding them up, interrogating them, prosecuting because they're Christians. If you recall, Pliny is having them crucified because of stubbornness and stubbornness. And how is that, what in specifically? The refusal to worship the emperor is really the problem. And the kind of madness that this, again, he uses the word madness, represents. That under threat of crucifixion, all they have to do is say, no, they're not Christian, and then worship the state gods. Right? Like, what does that cost them? It's going to cost them their life if they refuse to comply. Which, as a citizen, right, the notion of citizenship, that at some level the citizens have to comply with the needs and the demands of the state. And Pliny is looking at this and seeing that his demands are not unreasonable here, in his mind. Soon, with this investigation, ut with the indicative, as or how. Solet is indicative. So, you should know solet by now. If you don't, it hurts me. As it is accustomed to happen. Fio fiere factus sum. As it is accustomed to happen, you can do this a number of ways. You can do your typical subject verbs, right? Here's your subject, verb, or you can do this ablative absolute first. Anyway, I'm going to do the ablative absolute first. You can't stop me. Ablative absolute with noun, participle. With noun, participle. With the crime spreading itself around. With the crime diffusing itself, many occurrences happened. So, now, next clause. Propositus est libellus sine actora multorum nomina continens. Now, subjects and verbs. Look at this. Libellus, here's my subject. Propositus est, there it is. Libellus means little book. And you're like, they have a word for little book? Yes, they did. So do we. It's called the novella, right? Don't be so judgy. Right? The more words you have for things, the more ideas and sentiments you can express. And therefore, expand the range of human emotion, experience, and expression, and understanding and empathy. So, there you go. Why do I have to know grammar? Why do I have to know these rhetorical devices? Why do I have to know these themes? Why do I have to know these stories? Because, firstly, I said so. There you go. And it's good for you. A little book was published. Propositus est. A little book was published. Now, here it is, going with our theme of this crime going around and people ratting on their neighbors. Evidently, there was a little book that was published, right? Without an author, containing the names of many. A little tricky there. Nominative participle. A little book was published without an author, containing the names of many. Nice genitive possession there. Evidently, somebody anonymously published a little book, a libellus. And this little book has just got a list of names. Now, in another era, for instance, in the era of Sulla, that's all you had to do. Just publish a list of names. And in the heat of the political moment, your partisans, the people on your political side, they'll just go to those people on those lists and stab them and kill them and behead them. It's just a thing, evidently. And so it depends on the kind of political climate, who your leaders are at the time, whether people are going to get persecuted, blacklisted, murdered, based on just very, very scurrilous accusation, guilt by association, right? It can turn bloody and ugly. Bloody and ugly. And so, is that what's going to happen here? Well, what did we say? The era of the 5 good emperors. What can that mean? So when you have moments coming up like this where things can get out of hand and bloodshed and murder of innocents based on accusation, hearsay, not hairspray, that's different, right? Terrific musical, but nothing to murder anyone over. Hopefully you're imagining scenes from Hairspray right now. That in this era, it's not going to get out of hand. So evidently, Bithynia, a book gets published. Pliny becomes aware of it. And it contains the names of many people, many Christians. They're all out there. Freak out. But it's anonymous. Ooh, an anonymous author. Qui here, a little tricky. Qui at the beginning without an antecedent, right? Like they, them, the people. Tricky. I'm going to go with those who. Those who denied were denying. Oh my gosh, this sounds like a brain verb. Yes, it's a brain verb. I have an indirect statement coming. Oh my gosh, and look, I have infinitives, I have accusatives. This is terrific, terrific. I love indirect statement, right? Where your infinitive becomes a verb and your accusative subjects become subjects in English, even though they're not subjects and verbs in Latin. Now, essay is my present infinitive, but my brain verb, yes, is past tense, so it's in secondary sequence. Those who denied that. Wait a second, how do I translate indirect? Brain verb, subject, accusative. That's what I do next. Those who denied that they were. See? I used esse as were instead of are because of my imperfect there. Secondary sequence. Present infinitives translate. Very good, imperfectly. Those who denied that they were Christians, or, oh my gosh, different tense. Look, it's an infinitive from sum. Fuisse and esse. Fuisse and esse. Fuisse here is going to be translated pluperfectly in secondary sequence. Those who denied that they were Christians or had been Christians. Okay, so he investigates this list of people. So those who denied that they were Christian, so a person gets dragged in, and Pliny's like, your name is on this list, your name is on this list. And they're like, whoa, I'm not Christian.